Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Daniel Larson wiki article. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have to discuss Daniel Larson and sex. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Don't worry, guys. I have a bucket close by in case I ever happen to be, sick. But I promise each and every one of you, I'll try and make this quick and brief because nobody wants to know, and anything that needs to be censored will be censored. And if you're wondering what is going to be censored, I think I can leave. You will leave. I will leave up to your imagination because I don't really want to spend too much time on this. Okay, so let's get to it. I'm just a horny young adult. Thank you, Daniel. And apparently, according to some sources, Daniel Larson is still a virgin to this day. I have no idea whether that's true or not. Quite frankly, I do not want to know. Anyway, Daniel has an extremely poor, warped view of sex, aka the peeing feeling. I want to turn this video off. I hate this. It is unknown where this comes from, but it can be assumed that his stunted sexual development, lack of comprehensional skills, his mental age, and the twisted, disjointed way he views the world have all contributed. His view of sex also tends to overlap with his noncy behavior. What a surprise, but let's keep going. Knowledge and understanding of sex. In Daniel's mind, and probably in Daniel's minds only, sex and reproduction as a whole is a bizarre activity where men feel intense pain, i.e., stinging hornets' needles in their genitals when they reach climax, and where women orgasm in a fashion that can only be described as mimicking a power washer. Given this, his knowledge of sex is extremely poor and is likely only seen through the lenses of rumpy pumpy on the onlines. Daniel has an incredibly childish view of sex and what sex is like, so much so that he idolizes it and has odd views of how sex actually works. He knows very, very little about sex. He is noticeably confused about basic sexual terminology. For example, Daniel is infamous for referring to male ejaculation as, I'm not saying that again. However, Daniel seems very interested in furthering his sexual education, often asking people via private messages if they had sex, what it felt like, and other similar questions. Even in group messages, Daniel did not shy away from showing his unbridled sexual iniquities, according to an individual who was in a group chat with him. He has an incredibly childish view of sex and what sex is like, to the point that he idolizes sex and has very weird fantasies and ideas of how sex works. This furthers the point that he has a very childish mindset, potentially even because of sexual abuse in the past. Yeah, well, again, we'll cover this in more detail when we discuss Daniel Larson's mom. Yeah, I know. He's very intrigued on furthering his sexual education. Kind of like how when most of us had to watch the movie growing up before graduating elementary school. It was funny, it was new, and just the prospect of talking about it in school was kinda exciting when we were like 11. Back in 2021, Daniel used to add me and a bunch of people from the Larson Law, i.e., Savaf, Lil Sid, etc., to these group chats where he'd literally be like, okay, so has anyone ever had sex? What did it feel like? Was it warm? What did you think about during it? Super strange he just fire off questions like that. I definitely have screenshots somewhere in Google Photos. From Reddit user No Way Jose. Daniel shows a lack of understanding of sex, often wondering and asking if rap feels good at all. Good lord, he really did say that. He is very apathetic about consent and to a larger extent rap. When a troll pretending to be Grace Vanderwall told him that she was being rapped, he asked if it felt good and various other questions as to what being rapped was like. This was presumably so Daniel could get off to the thought of his favourite celebrity and longtime crush engaging in sexual activity. Perhaps he asked these questions because the troll was pretending to be Grace, but even people who are not Grace Vanderwall are asked similar questions. Yeah, I've got a few questions I want to ask right now, and I'm asking myself these certain things like WTF and what am I even still doing here? Which may or may not be related to the article. I'm trying to laugh, but I'm trying to see the funny side. But to be honest, where is it? I think it's long gone. This behavior is most likely explained by his ignorance about the world, which causes him to be quite naive about how bad rap actually is. To Daniel, it is nothing more than another word for sex. Meanwhile, caught in the act. Most of Daniel's sexual fantasies are recreations of what he pictures within his mind and not from sexual experience. Daniel has admitted on various occasions that he is a virgin. However, there are some instances of Daniel engaging in sexy sexual activity. Sex toys. Daniel has made, I'm definitely going to have to censor a lot of this. Daniel has made numerous purchases for sex toys, his go-to being a fleshlight or the pocket pussy, as they thought him. Imagine somebody getting paid to write this. Again, I'm starting to feel a bit sick, actually. On July 30th, 2023, he purchased one of them from a sex shop while speaking to another fake Grace troll. The fleshlight was bought using money that Bob Proctor had supplied to Daniel to buy essentials such as food, water, and clothes, which he never did, much to the surprise of nobody. In these messages, Daniel claims that he was getting something for us, as if the troll was going to feel Daniel using the fleshlight. Using Bob's money, he purchased a fleshlight from an unknown sex shop and showed it off to the troll. Daniel lost the bag he kept the fleshlight in. Way to go, Daniel. On August 15th, 2023, Daniel purchased 4 more fleshlights, 2 of them resembling a man's anus. Daniel claimed to have spent $500 that day. $500 on what is essentially just a chunk of plastic. Daniel's reasoning for buying all 4 instead of just buying 1 is unknown. Daniel's obsession with buying expensive things instead of saving his resources while homeless is a mystery. Due to Daniel's homelessness, there is a very strong chance that if he ever gets around to using these toys, they will most likely remain uncleaned and absolutely filthy. Well, I think now you and I both know that, and to be honest, I couldn't care less, so where's the surprise? Anyway, when Daniel was arrested in Boulder, a fleshlight could be seen in body cam footage as the officer was searching his backpack. The fleshlight was not removed by the officer, though it did cause him to cough and retch profusely. I know the feeling. Masturbation and self-stimulation. Daniel does not know how to pleasure himself correctly and does so awkwardly. I would love to know how they know these things, but I don't want to know them either. Using both hands. He was tricked by a fake Grace troll into doing it in a Red Robin restroom on a Discord call and was kicked out after defrauding the restaurant. In one video, he is shown flapping his penis up and down in the corner of a brick wall. He is also shown to enjoy playing with his anus, as he did so in the very first Daniel Larson incident, as well as inserting various objects into his rectum, such as a toothbrush, while he subsequently used to brush his teeth. It is unclear as to whether or not he ever used that same toothbrush again. Quite frankly, it was probably the only time that toothbrush saw any sort of action whatsoever. However, some of the things that, quite frankly, we'll never know, and probably also never know. Finally, deviancy, the P word. Now, we have covered pretty much the entire article before, but to be honest, we've got to try and make this, well, because there's a little bit more to this anyway, we may as well crack on, I guess. The P word has always been a touchy subject for Daniel. During the initial leaking of Daniel's Pinterest account, he had at first attempted to deny all claims that he was a nonce, pretending he had not even known what Pinterest was. Before backtracking, there's a surprise, of course, he did it almost immediately, and boldly admitting it to the camera. Daniel's noncy behaviours date as far back as when he was 18, when he had seen 12-year-old Grace Vanderwall on America's Got Talent. Daniel's grandmother, Nancy Shimmer, told Daniel that he would not have a chance at dating Grace, which resulted in Daniel's years-long obsession with Grace, sexualized fantasies about Grace, and stalking. Even though Grace is now an adult, during the years when Daniel started TikTok, she was still underage, and Daniel did not shy away from talking about her in inappropriate ways. When messaging with trolls who pretended to be Grace, Daniel had, and still presumably has, a habit of sending photos of Grace from her childhood, which he attempted to sexualize. Daniel is well aware of the allegations of these sorts of behaviors against him, and has vehemently denied them. To try to salvage his reputation, or if there ever was one in the first place, when he spoke to a person he thought was a minor on Kick, he changed his name to Bill Carter, in an attempt to evade suspicion and throw people off his scent. Events such as this highlight that Daniel is aware that he is doing is wrong, although he shows no signs of stopping. Additionally, on January 16, 2023, Daniel admitted on a live stream that he is indeed, well, the P word. Fantastic, Daniel. There are some things in this world, even if you were caught in the act, you would never ever admit to. Quite frankly, Daniel has absolutely no shame whatsoever, and you'll be surprised as to why I do not feel at the least bit bad for Daniel, and never will. Admitting so to be able to put an end to it. No, Daniel, if anything, I think that's probably where it begins. Which was screen recorded by Reddit user Competitive Poem 206 and posted to the subreddit. Rap. Once again, Daniel has never been confirmed to have suffered rap or any form of sexual assault. When reading statements from Daniel himself, remember that Daniel has a history of pathological lying. Daniel is very apathetic about consent and, to a larger extent, rap. When a troll pretending to be Grace Vanderwall told him that she was being rapped, he asked if it felt good and various other questions as to what being rapped was like. The reason behind this is unknown, but it can be deduced that Daniel asked this so he could get off the thought of his favourite celebrity and longtime crush engaging in sexual activity. Go to hell, Daniel. That's all I'm going to say about that. Go to hell. Perhaps he asked these questions because the troll was pretending to be Grace and he was concerned for her safety. No, I don't buy that. Do you guys buy that? I don't buy that at all. However, even people who are not Grace Vanderwall are noted to have been asked similar questions. This behavior is most likely explained by his ignorance about the world and his lack of empathy, resulting from his autism, which causes him to be quite naive about how traumatic rap actually is. To Daniel, it is nothing more than another word for sex. Inversely, Daniel seems to be quite aware of how horrible and traumatizing rap is, as he has claimed to have been rapped on many occasions. As of December 2024, Daniel has claimed to have been assaulted by the following individuals: Ryan, a roommate when he was in disability housing. Daniel claimed to have been rapped by him because of Ryan's jealousy of his fame. Sweet Tea, Daniel's alleged cellmate during the jail arc, and an unknown assailant from the second jail arc. Though these claims must be taken with a grain of salt, given Daniel's tendency to lie, inconsistencies in his retellings of events, and his assertion that he is a virgin. Yeah, thank God that's over. And the only thing I've got to say, literally, to end this sad, sad article, is the knowledge that, once again, don't feel bad for Daniel, and thank God we are nothing like him. Thank God for that. And with all that being said, I will see all of you guys again next time. Probably right after I take a shower or something. Oh, I just feel bad for reading. I just feel dirty inside. Ugh.